It's awesome. All right, guys, we can get started. It's 5:05. I'm gonna start with this investor disclaimer. We're live. People are drinking. People are typing. Very exciting time right now. NFTs were trending yesterday in California. But before we jump in, let's give a fair disclaimer. So this content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper Goren Home or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever. And you can catch this recording at our lovely media partner, Blockchain Radio. Pierre's in the chat right now. What's up, man? And also, right now, we're streaming on LA Blockchain Summit YouTube channel. So if you're not in Remo, come join Remo. Come ask your questions. Come network with these gaming NFT pros. And today's topic, why everyone's here, is NFTs in the gaming sector. And what better way to talk about this than with Aggie, with Craig, and with Jason. What's going on, guys? Cheers. Thank you for being here.
Salute!
Salute. And just to start this off, Jason, you're drinking through a horn. What the hell is that all about?
What do other people drink out of? Is this
I
not normal? I feel like this.
Someone sip from his hand, but you've just taken it.
How do you? What's the holder for that? Is it like
it's a little? It has a welded metal thing that it just kind of hangs out in.
Nice.
Old timey telephone.
Nice. What's the story? Why do you even have that?
I have a drinking horn because I decided at some point in time that I needed to make mead. So I have started to make mead, and actually that's what this is right here.
Oh,
okay.
So for those who don't know, what is mead?
So mead is basically it is one of the earliest forms of alcohol. It was very common. Well, it's actually been made basically anywhere. It's essentially made out of fermented honey and water.
Cool.
And this is actually a melomel, which is from fermented honey, water, and also has blueberries in it. And so it sits in primary fermentation for a couple months. There's champagne yeast that converts the sugars into alcohol, and then it gets you take it off of the lees, which are basically the yeast that sinks down to the bottom, and it sat in secondary fermentation for a couple months, and now it is it's flat, which it's supposed to be. It's not a carbonated thing, but it's kind of like a little champagne-y tasting.
That's impressive. You make that yourself?
I do.
And you have like a beehive and all?
Like, no, I buy the honey.
I was gonna say, I didn't understand the extent of this.
No, it gets crazy. But no, where I am, I don't have the ability to have a beehive, and I am mildly allergic to bee stings, so I try to avoid them. But the mead honey is it's great.
Okay, Aggie, what are you drinking?
This will just be a little bit of water and vodka for the evening. It's pretty dilute, but I'm trying to stay somewhat cognizant for the rest of the night.
I'll give it to you, Craig.
Yes, it's vodka soda for me as well.
Okay,
so.
Cool. Guys, I'm very excited to have you on here. Really quick, give me a background on yourselves, how you got into crypto, what are you guys building, and why you're excited about NFTs. Super quick. We can start with Aggie, then go to Craig, and then with Jason.
All right, so I'm the CEO of Splinterlands. I'm one of the co-founders. So I come with a sales and marketing background. I used to work for big publishing companies. My partner is the dev. He's got 20, 30 years experience. And we built Splinterlands. And Splinterlands is a trading card game. And our goal is to be one of the first mainstream projects out there. So far, we've played 44 million games. We're in something like 142 countries. We are translated in 8 different languages. And, we use blockchain to try to make it so that you can play anytime, trade anytime, and earn every win. And if we do that, we've done our job. And I just want to say that ultimately what we really love is crypto. Crypto is amazing. This is a life-changing experience. So I very much think of our game as a Trojan horse to get people from, regular games and, normal life and just, why don't you play this game? And hopefully we suck them in and they come to earn some money when playing a game, but they stay for the life-altering crypto experience.
Nice. I love it. Craig.
Yeah, I'm Craig Russo, co-founder of Polyient Games. It's an investment ecosystem that's hyper-focused on the NFT asset class. We are bringing innovations, access, and liquidity to the NFT market, and with our first and foremost focus on blockchain gaming, which is the hottest ticket in town right now as it relates to this asset class. I actually come by way of the biotech industry, believe it or not. I was a neuroscientist prior to this, and we are one of the most active and heavy investors in the NFT space, both from the Metaverse level, which we can talk more about here with the Gala Games purchase, as well as direct token and startup equity level. So very excited to talk more about NFTs. Great time.
Wait, did I understand you were a neurosurgeon?
Neuroscientist.
Neuroscientist.
Yeah. No, I quit far too early to be a neurosurgeon. But yeah,
wait,
from the science
how'd
world.
you go from being a neuroscientist to now delving in crypto? Like, what is that transition?
Yeah, so I was working in a number of labs at Harvard, and I made my way into like the venture capital startup world in biotech, and then realized I like being a degenerate and trading crypto and made the move.
So, Adam, I want to share on top of that. I'm a PhD chemist, and I did roughly.
There we go.
So I was a professor of chemistry. I worked in industry. I was a professor, and then I'm like, the hell with this. I'm just a degen.
You're a degen. Yep. There we go.
Go into it.
Jason, please tell me you're a doctor as well.
No, but I am a high school dropout. Does that count?
Nice.
I quit and started my own business at 13. So that was my path.
Nice. So so give me the full rundown, your background, how you got into crypto.
The full rundown.
Okay. I want it in like condensed, but the full rundown.
Okay, so basically, long story short, started my own business doing web development and graphic design when I was way too young. Ended up that, in the 2007 collapse, kind of got knocked out with a lot of other people's businesses. Through some shenanigans on the part of my landlord, I ended up losing most of my stuff and kind of got busted down to a backpack. Decided, okay, well, now I have a backpack. I might as well make the most of this, and decided to move to Asia and teach English. Ended up working in Southeast Asia, doing university admissions for about a decade. About halfway through that, I had this, I'd been reading about blockchain stuff and participating in the ecosystem in a very small way. About halfway through that, I saw this call for papers in 2014 that was basically, it was from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Global Development Network. And the question was basically, foreign aid is broken. How do we fix it? And so I sat down and said, well, blockchain makes sense for this. I had literally 8 hours between when I discovered that the call for papers was open and when the actual deadline was. It had been running for like 8 months, and I had 8 hours. And since we're having the blockchain and booze, I went down to the corner 7-Eleven and I got a 6-pack of beer, and I went back up to my apartment and I wrote a paper on how blockchain can fix some of the problems endemic to foreign aid, based on my experiences in Haiti, which I had been to previously.
Within 8 hours.
Like you do. Within 8 hours, submitted it and completely forgot about it. Like, it was just I can either write this essay or I can do my actual job, which, write a random essay for a contest versus work, write a random essay wins every time. So like 3 months later, I was over having dinner at a buddy's house, and I got a phone call, and they said I had won the competition along with a few other people. And so that, got me a grant, and I started kind of getting more heavily involved in the blockchain space, and here I am. I am currently the CMO of Gala Games, which was founded by a friend of mine, Eric Schiermeyer. Wow. This mead might be Eric Schiermeyer, who was the co-founder of Zynga, and we have a pretty well evolved group of developers who are working on building out the Gala Games ecosystem. And yeah, here we are.
I love it. You guys all have really interesting backgrounds. I feel like we could dive into each of your own personal backgrounds and make for a much more interesting conversation. Specifically with Aggie and Craig and Jason. I didn't know you dropped out. That's pretty cool. Craig and Aggie, like, what are you guys doing in crypto? you guys
I don't know.
Saving students and saving lives. But anyways, NFTs. Okay, so yesterday I mentioned California was trending on Twitter for NFTs. Mark Cuban started talking about them on the Defiant and on Reddit threads, Reddit forums, and Chamath went on CNBC, I think, and talked about how he's building up an NFT portfolio, and that just got everyone freaking out and pulling their hair out. And here we are this week. NFTs are gaining a lot of traction. You guys, between Craig and Jason, you guys sold the second highest NFT, right, for a price tag of 800K. I think Axie Infinity just beat that for 1.5 mil. Still top 3. I still support it. And Aggie, you guys are building a really dope game. So there's a lot going on, a lot to uncover. But really quick, before we get deeper into the conversation, someone please give me a really dumbed down definition of what the hell an NFT even is.
I'll go for it.
Okay.
So you have a fungible token, and a fungible token, all you care about is who owns it and how much do they have. And, it's like if you buy a gallon of gas, I can exchange a gallon of gas with you. You won't even care. They're all exactly the same. If I give you a $5 bill and you give me a $5 bill, nobody cares. They're all treated the same. But these NFTs, they aren't. They're tokens that you're also tracking other stuff. So it's like, well, what edition is it? How many of them are included in that? What ability levels do they have? Does it have any experience points? What color is it? Is it a shoe or a sword or what class is it? Like, if you're now starting to wonder all this other stuff about it too. So it's not just do you own it and how many, but it's like, well, tell me all these things about it. In our game, you have a Lord of Darkness, and you're like, okay, which edition? And we'll say alpha. Then they'll say, okay, what level? And I'll say like 6. And then they'll say, okay, what skins do you have? It's like you just keep going on. It's not just how many do you have, but what are the different parts of it?
But Jason or Craig, you guys have anything else to add?
I think one thing to know about NFTs is that they're a highly social asset class, in that we as people can apply them to a lot of different types of existence, digital existence, whether it's games, art, increasingly in financial products. And so it's very interesting, the kind of culture around NFTs that's forming, that's very distinct between those different verticals. And so just how Aggie described is that this individual representation of an asset or an item on the network really can serve as the cornerstone for to emerge. And I think what we're seeing is the very early days of that beginning to happen. And that's where we're getting into some of this metaverse type conversation as it relates to some of these promising applications like Miranda. So it's very exciting to see this all kind of naturally progress. We've all been watching it for years now. We all knew this was going to happen. It was just a matter of time, and I think we're starting to hit this very important inflection point.
Jason, anything else to?
That was extremely well said by both. I don't feel that there is anything that I could contribute there at all.
Just grab the horn. That's it. That's all you need. Okay, Craig, Aggie, you guys both mentioned a keyword here, the metaverse. Okay, it's something that I'm hearing more and more. You guys are obviously, the three of you are very familiar with what the hell the metaverse even is. Give me a quick rundown, like what is it, why is it important, and how does it kind of correlate to NFTs, especially in the gaming sector? And Jason,
I think Jason's probably the best at that. He's the man building one.
Well, I am the one handling marketing for a group of people. So I regrettably have very, very, very little coding ability myself. So when you look at NFTs in gaming, I think one of the things that's interesting, and Aggie touched on the concept of non-fungibility. But an NFT in a gaming sense, okay, giving somebody actual ownership of an in-game asset. Now, for a long time, people have played games. Gaming is one of the earliest human things that we've done. Like we at the very, very roots of our human history, play, it boils down to as being one of the key things that makes us human. Now, when we take that and we move it forward, okay, we see for the longest time, people actually got to own their games. You know, when you, in the early days of gaming, all of you played Nintendo, right? Everyone had a Nintendo. Everyone had cartridges for that Nintendo. Everyone would go out and buy an RPG and it would have a map in the box, or it would have, you know, some cool swag like that. And it was something that you actually owned. Then when things began to go completely digital and everything was cloud-based, suddenly it got to the point where you didn't even have a disc or a cartridge anymore. It was just, you know, bits and bytes out on the network itself. And people began to spend more and more and more money in gaming because they worked out the tech so that they could, where the game companies would have, you know, consistent revenue streams. But people began owning less and less and less. Okay. And so when you look at NFTs in gaming, what we're working on doing and what everybody on this call is focusing on is giving people ownership of their in-game assets. And this is something that is really a return to what gaming should be, and a departure from sort of the I don't want to say AAA mentality, but I think that it is fair to say that for the longest period, we haven't had this sort of ownership. And so basically by giving people access to their items that they own, you're able to, like Splinterlands is doing, able to allow them to, sorry, reading things at the same time. It basically allow them to profit from their games, you know, able to play, earn, and participate in a broader ecosystem. And this is essentially what the NFT boils down to, and why NFTs are so important in gaming. We're revolutionizing the gaming industry. Yeah. And I think that it won't be very long before gaming as a whole is primarily NFT based, where people will not want to play a game unless they can own it.
Yeah, I want to add on to that, because you know, we talked about all the different ways that you're tracking different properties. One of those properties isn't just ownership, but it's what permissions you have. So for our game, Splinterlands, right now you play a game and you put down a summoner and you choose a bunch of monsters and they'll fight. And in the next round of this, we're adding items and spells. And so it's not just a blind draft, but now both players get to see your team, your opponent's team, and then you get a second round of strategic decisions around items and spells. And when we said we're going to introduce these cards, we wanted to figure out, how do we give them to players? How do we sell them? How do players get them? And what we did is we said, you know, it would be pretty standard for us to just go sell more packs, more booster packs. That's the normal way that games do this. And we're like, how do we be as crypto as fuck as possible? And we say, no, what we're going to do is we're going to sell land. And the players that own the land, we are going to give them permission to make the new cards. So what I'm talking about is we are going to transfer, we have made money. Our business has generated money by selling booster packs. And we are saying, we're not going to do that. Our players get to do that. We are going to hand our revenue stream to our players. The land-owning dudes are going to be the guys that go and make the next set of cards. And that's what I think you get out of NFT. It's not only ownership, but now you have permission. You have authority. And in our game, it gives you the authority to make cards. And those cards, you can either use them in battles, you could rent them to other players, or you could sell the things that you've created. And you know, our cards are worth collectively millions of dollars. And we are handing that printing right or the minting right over to the players, but only to the landowning players. And I think that's what, it's not just about ownership. That's the core. But as we add more things to it, we're also talking about permission and authority.
So you guys all mentioned the keyword of ownership, okay? So what, and this is something that I talked about on Clubhouse in an NFT group. what happened in the world that made everybody all of a sudden want to own what they're using? Like I remember, and I'm not an avid gamer. I used to be growing up. I used to play RuneScape, Club Penguin, League of Legends, World of Warcraft, like really early stuff. And never have I ever gotten to the state of mind where I was like, wait, I want to own this. Like what happened in the world that motivated people and that kind of struck a nerve for them to be like, I should be owning the things that I'm playing or I'm using. And this applies to the greater NFT community and the crypto community in general. But let's take it from the gaming side of things.
Well,
I think. Oh, sorry. Do you want to?
You go for it, Jason. I'll follow up.
I think Chris really touched on it here when he says in comments, answer, realizing that we were lied to about our stuff. I think that ultimately that's what it boils down to. I think that there's a great sense of betrayal on the part of gamers everywhere who realize that, you know, we spend hundreds and thousands of dollars, you know, buying in-game items, new skins, new weapons, a cool hat, you know, whatever it is. And then at the end of the day, if you want to trade that to somebody else, well, you're kind of screwed because it's a terms of service violation. Okay. If you look at the trade of in-game assets, non-blockchain in-game assets, okay, you guys may have heard this number before, but that is a $50 billion a year industry today for non-blockchain in-game assets. And the majority of these are traded via people selling accounts to one another. And, you know, when you look at it and you say, okay, well, that's $50 billion a year of trade. Okay. $50 billion of volume in well, not even NFTs, in just accounts moving back and forth. And a lot of times when people sell their accounts, you even end up with situations where you have somebody who sells their own account and then reports it as stolen. They get paid for it in Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever. And then their account gets reclaimed by the company and given back to them, and they turn around and they sell it again. And even with all of that massive counterparty risk, you still have a $50 billion a year industry. And so once people realize, well, shit, there's another way to do this, I could actually own this. You're kidding. Like I could have done this entire time. People wake up to that as an option, and it becomes completely unacceptable to consider doing it any other way.
Yeah, I don't know how players go back. I mean, once you've played these blockchain games and you've owned one of these assets, and then like you want to get married or you want to get divorced or you want to go to college or you have a kid and you like sell off all your assets, you know, and you can actually get money back from that and have like an honest trade with somebody. You know, I don't know how you're going to go to one of these other games and spend $20,000 again. I mean, maybe if you just have like, you know, who the hell cares money, you can go do that. But for most normal humans, you know, like if you're going to spend $500 on your next game, you're going to wonder, do I just give all this money to this publishing company, or do I get to keep all this money that I'm spending? And if you're in early and you start thinking about like, will these assets appreciate? Are they limited edition? Is this business run well? Do I think that this community is growing? You know, not only are you then playing, having fun, potentially earning, but you might even see asset appreciation as well. And that to me is like the trifecta. You know, it's like I want to play my games. I want to have an asset that appreciates over time. And in case like, you know, we have new family members or my house burns down or I just want a nicer computer, you know, maybe I can go sell some of these things or all of these things. And or like, what if the game devs just suddenly die or they suck or like make choices I hate? You know, I want to be able to leave the ecosystem without having, you know, drop $5,000 and never being able to reclaim it. So how do you go back? How do you go back? I spent my $5,000. I took 10 grand back. Well, what, you're going to go waste it on some game where you don't own anything?
Yeah.
And I think we're entering a new generation of gamers who were brought up on the concept of in-game items, purchases, things like that, where, you know, when we were gaming, you know, back when, those concepts weren't around, just but the technology wasn't around. So we have a next generation of gamers who are hyper prepared to understand the idea of in-game assets. And it's really just another step beyond that to understand the concept of ownership. And I think it's something too that some of these major groups are watching this, like Epic Games. You know, we're seeing tweets come out that they understand where this is heading. And I think it comes down to really seeing the metaverse, whether it's a generalized metaverse like Decentraland or hyper-focused metaverses like some of these games like land plots, as being the kind of the next frontier of investment. And at Polyient, that's really our thesis is understanding that the digital native individual, when making purchase decisions, is much more likely to go and understand the metaverse land, the opportunities, the revenue streams that can come from it in a world where especially my generation, we're perpetually priced out of owning any real world assets, whether it's houses or land, things like that. So I think it's kind of a perfect situation. We're really riding the back of kind of the Bitcoin's whole purpose of where the economy is going. And NFTs can kind of fit into their own little niche there, because if we truly believe in the digital age, there needs to be digital ownership.
Sure.
And I think what we're very interested in right now is this shift from generalized metaverse. I think, as I mentioned before, Decentraland and a few of these early pioneers, to the hyper focus, where it's based on a game or it's based on an MMORPG, where there's not going to be a one size fit all type of world, and especially when interoperability is very far off. We're betting on what we see as winners, and if we want to segue into the Gala game stuff, I think that
yeah, I think it's a perfect way to segue specifically into the collab that you guys had, Polyient Games and Gala Games. You guys sold an NFT for $800,000, and
so we purchased it.
Oh,
we bought it from Jason's a master salesman.
Oh, okay, I misread the headline then. So wait a second. So then that kind of I have to re-engineer my question then. So what was the backstory behind it? Why did you pay $800K for it? Like what's the background? Give me some details.
I mean, as I mentioned, we're betting big on what we see as high potential opportunities with these emerging economies, this emerging metaverse, and worlds based on these high priority or high potential games. And you look at Gala Games as executive group and people like Jason leading the charge here. There's really no better team in blockchain gaming right now. And so what we saw as an opportunity is not only to essentially buy into the metaverse, to participate and to explore the opportunities, but it's also to help facilitate its development. And so with our purchase of the Citadel of the Sun NFT, we are going to be driving the financial layer of the Miranda's game, and the financial layer as it relates to the both in-game economy, as well as that bridge, that very important bridge between in-game and the blockchain. And so with Polyient Games, we've been building up a lot of very, very core infrastructure as it relates to liquidity for the NFT market, trading for in-game currencies, and most importantly, what's upcoming is this concept of a vault system, where you can take your NFT asset and put it to work for rewards. And so this type of concept is being bridged into the Miranda's world, where it's going to have a number of different utility points as it relates to storage of in-game items, participating in the economy level. Jason can probably go on and on about this, but essentially it's this idea where a third party like us, we've never built a game in our lives, we can come in, step in and plug into this world and be an active participant and build an entire business segment inside of it. And so, first and foremost, our investment thesis is that, we see this industry going very, very far, but it's going to take groups like us to roll up our sleeves and to participate at the metaverse level, because kind of the vanilla investment strategies related to this asset class, and even you see it in traditional cryptocurrencies, so many funds have gone under by not understanding the space. And so, given the immense infrastructure that we're building, this was a marriage made in heaven for us to plug into Miranda's and work with the Gala Games team. Jason, I think we have meetings bi-weekly at this point to really drive this thing forward and to see what we see as the first real iteration of a self-sustained metaverse economy come to fruition.
Super fascinating. Do you have any?
That is very well said.
Jason?
That is very well said. There's
it's hard and the reason why I want to dive into this so deeply, and Aggie, feel free to contribute as well, is because a lot of people are just hearing about NFTs right now, gamers, honestly, like I first came across NFTs, like a lot of us did, through CryptoKitties, right? And that was a game-based NFT adoption wheelhouse. And to think that someone just bought one, or you guys just bought one for 800K because there's so much more to it than just the NFT itself, is something worth diving deeper into. So I want to understand this better.
Oh, for sure. I think to really understand this, I want to kind of harken back a little bit to what Aggie said a little bit ago about it's not just being the NFT and ownership, it's also access to a certain extent. And when you look at the Citadel of the Sun in Mirandus and our partnership with Polyient Games and what they will be providing in-game, you develop a very different sense of he's back. We lost Craig. You develop a very different sense of exactly what is possible with an NFT. Now, this is not, and in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. We don't want people to buy any of the Citadels who just want to own an expensive NFT. Okay. So the first NFT was 800,000. The second, we're finalizing everything for 1.6 million. Third is 3.2, 6.4, so on and so forth. Okay. We don't want people to buy those who just say, "Ooh, I bought a really expensive NFT. Look at me. Look at my NFT, portfolio." We're looking for active ecosystem participants and people who want to work with us to build out this world and this virtual economy in a way that's never really been seen before. Now, what Polyient and the vaults will be doing within the game of Mirandus, which is all tied to the Citadel itself. So in addition to their Citadel, there also were 10 vaults, 5 of which we have auctioned. And what these vaults do is they provide in-game functionality where people can bring their items, okay, because it's an MMORPG, so you can only carry so much stuff. So you can have 50,000 things on the blockchain, but your character can only carry X amount, right? I mean, that's a fairly basic MMORPG mechanism. So what these vaults enable is for people to bring NFTs, okay, from outside the game into the game and to store them, okay, so that if somebody else, for example, let's say you have a sword, okay, you could put your sword in the vault. Somebody could come to that vault and say, "Hey, I need this sword because I'm going to go raid this dungeon," okay, be given access to that in-game item, okay. The NFT itself will not be changing hands in this event. You get access to that in-game item. You go raid your dungeon, okay, after you pay your X amount for use of that item. And then when it's done, it's simply removed from your inventory, and whoever has deposited it there receives something for that, okay? And there's a lot of different ways that this can be built into the game system. Now, the Citadel itself, okay, is actually an integral part of the world of Mirandus. There's only 5 of them, and it's basically built into the fabric of the world, and it will be, custom developed with custom art and all of that, specifically to fill a certain niche in the world. And we're looking at it very much like a kind of a MMORPG version of like a Venice sort of thing, is kind of the direction that it will take in the world itself. And so the Citadel gives access to this entire layer. And what Polyient has done by acquiring this Citadel is they have partnered with us in building this ecosystem out in a way that's
super interesting. So could I... alpha right there. You guys are going to be bringing in more mainstream artists to build like a collab with Ferocious or Fuck Render or stuff like that. Is that something you guys are considering?
We're very interested in bringing lots of different this could be so many leaks here if I don't stop talking. We're interested in lots of different partnerships and connecting with people in a variety of different ways. And in fact, we have GalaCon coming up at the end of the month, 27th and 28th at the end of the month, and you can find information about that on our social media accounts as soon as that gets pushed out. But we are going to have some interesting art-related announcements
We'll leave it there. I don't want to squeeze you too hard. But Aggie and Jason, Craig, feel free to jump in as well. How do you guys actually approach pricing in NFT? Like how do you determine like an NFT is worth this much? This is what people are willing to pay for it. Like what kind of research goes into that? What kind of data do you look at? Or is it just one of those things that's so early on, you just price it and you see what hits the fan kind of thing?
So we have a strategy of trying to make our most current edition always affordable. So like I give a lot of kudos to Axie Infinity. They have like, they've had Axie sell for $100,000 or more. And that's pretty awesome. But it also is pretty daunting to like new players that are considering joining. So what we want is a current edition that's always affordable, always in play. We looked at packs for other games and we said, we're going to sell our booster packs for five cards for $2. And we want players not to necessarily have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to be competitive. Like if you're an old school, like Ethereum god from way back, like you don't care if you spend $50 million on whatever. But if you're like just coming into crypto, which is our target audience, and maybe you've lived like a normal life and don't have, $20,000 to just drop on, a brand new game that day, we still want you to be here. We still want you to be competitive. So for us, we're trying to make it so that there's some early editions that are limited editions that you're not, it's just scarce. We're working on our land sale now, and we're very intentionally limiting how much land is available. So the land is kind of optional. So we want that to be something that ultimately gets higher and higher priced for people. But for like the entry level into cards and into the game and just getting started, and again, our goal is to mainstream into crypto. It's not to like have necessarily like $500,000 NFTs as the norm. We want people coming in. So we looked at how do we make this affordable? How do we bring people in? How do we make it collectible? And that's sort of our baseline. Although one thing I'd add that's similar to what these guys are doing, we have a rental market in our game. So you can rent cards from one another. Mm-hmm. And so like they were saying, player one owns it, but they can make it so that player two gets to have a use. And that way they can, we end up having kind of two groups of people in our game, those that are collecting huge amounts of cards and renting them out like digital properties to other people. And then we have those that are like coming in and just wanting the game. They rent some cards for a little bit. They don't have tons of cash to put in, but they can still have high quality decks through this rental process. So we do a lot to try to focus on mainstream adoption, people that have never been in crypto before, keep it inexpensive, and allow the older cards to appreciate, but keep the newer cards like in a really affordable range for folks.
Super interesting. And Craig, by the way, you became blurry a little bit on your end. I don't know if you need to refocus.
Oh, is it?
All is good, but just to let you know. So, Jason, how do you guys kind of view pricing at Gala Games? And when Craig comes back in, I'll direct the question to.
Sure. So basically, much better. Basically, the way that we look at this is a little bit of a philosophical point. So I'm going to back up a little bit, and rather than answer your question and say, how do we look at pricing of NFTs? I want to look at how do we look at the experience of onboarding, because that was very much to Aggie's point. And what does that mean in relation to the pricing of NFTs? When we take a game like Mirandus or Townstar, which can currently be played as well, there's always this question of, okay, well, is it free to play? Like, is it really free to play? Do I have to buy something to play or not? Can I just show up and start playing right away? Do I need to even create an account? And what we're looking to do is we want to lower the barrier of entry as low as humanly possible, so that when people show up and they start playing, okay, they can get to the point where they may even earn an NFT and then go, okay, well, maybe now I should create an account so that I can, save this and send it to myself or something like that. So that's kind of the direction that we go. Now, our actual NFTs for for Mirandus that are currently on sale. I think the least expensive one that we currently have is about $50. But that said, these are actually shops that can be placed on land deeds inside of the game. So if you want to own a blacksmith or a tavern or a temple, those are the types of things that are being purchased in that particular range. These are the smaller ones, you know, and whatnot, and they obviously go up from there. But as things go forward, we do want to have NFTs accessible to anyone at a very affordable rate. It's just that in the cycle, we're not at the point where
I think on the subject matter evaluation, it's very interesting for NFTs right now. I think there's this subset of participants who believe that the only way to reach a valuation is through auction, which is totally off base. If I were going to buy a house, it wouldn't be based off of the auction price for that house. If I were trying to sell it, so it's a byproduct of the very nature of it being a non-fungible asset that there's going to be inefficiency in pricing and valuation. And so this is a big focus of ours, and understanding, how can we begin to build out standardized valuation models for NFT assets. And it's not a one size fits all. There's a few different approaches. For instance, in the case of the Gala Games purchase, obviously very clear business development goals for us and for Gala Games there, that price point as a standard for our buy-ins for metaverses, I think made a lot of sense, and we're very happy with. But when you're going into kind of the more mainstream and understanding things, I think CryptoPunks is a great example. They really took off when, for instance, like the NFTX indices launched, where we have this liquid output, this understanding of like the liquidity farming associated with the assets. That really enabled a more efficient price discovery for those assets, and obviously being kind of the first real mainstream NFT really has helped them take off, like the Bitcoin of NFTs. And then peeling the layers back a little bit more, trying to understand ways in which we can assign utility to NFTs to begin to standardize valuations to enable more efficient swaps. Right now, auctions are kind of our only go-to right now, and it's, especially if you're on Ethereum, it's expensive and tedious process. And so one of the things that we're working on with internal to the Polyient Games ecosystem is understanding how do we unify valuations as a function of yield properties. And those yield properties are a byproduct of the vaulting system that we're designing, where you can take your NFT, whether it's a in-game asset or something like an art piece, and put it inside of a vault to have clear outputs as it relates to rewards. And while it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all type of approach, it's a first step towards understanding how do we create these more standardized valuation models. And I think Mirandus is going to be a fantastic example of that, especially given the fact that we have our main vault, which is the Citadel of the Sun. But as Jason mentioned, we did 5 sales of vaults within our system, these smaller vaults, where the owners of those vaults will be able to set a lot of the rules and as it relates to yield properties and returns for them. So it's really early days for this type of stuff, but there's a few different approaches to reaching more efficient valuation models that will make it more tenable for investors like us at our scale, but also the new entrant who in the most efficient way, where they're not having to buy a $1,500 NFT just to start participating in the market. Yeah. And so I think we're approaching it on 2 different sides, and I think we're gonna find our stride here as an industry soon.
Great. Yeah, I want to jump into the QA section and be respectful of you guys' time, because we only have about 10 minutes left. So this question comes from Santiago. Could we have that can be cross-platform? For example, you can transcribe your op skins to another game.
Yes.
Short answer.
Yeah, that's a short answer. Yeah. We're doing it.
I'll say it's technically viable, but being running Polyient Games ecosystem, one thing I've learned is that you need to have very strong incentive alignments between teams to make that happen, because it's not just you will it and it happens. There's a lot of considerations from a technical design, everything that goes into it, and so. We need a much more efficient system to align interest, to standardize that type of Ready Player One type vision. Otherwise, it really is untenable right now.
Okay.
I would like to, yeah, I'd like to take a slightly different approach, not to disagree in any way, shape, or form, but simply to say that NFTs are objects on a blockchain. Blockchains, by their very nature, at least public blockchains, are public. So if we, as a game development company, for example, decided to give everybody who has CryptoKitties in their wallet access to an in-game cat item, okay, that would wander around their farm inside of Townstar, that is entirely something that we could do without a great deal of technical lift. It's simply a matter of indexing that specific contract and tracking down all of those items that exist and, you know, giving people who have them, you know, special functionality. That is something that we are very interested in because we see it as an ideal way to potentially even acquire new users. Because if you had a CryptoKitty and you had an ability to actually play with your CryptoKitty, like how much more fun would that be rather than looking at it from a purely collectible standpoint? And this could be done, you know, by anyone. The people at Axie Infinity could say, you know, hey, those guys over at Gala Games, they have a bunch of people who bought land deeds. Let's go give them, you know, a special, you know, placeable item in their game if they have one of these contract items. That's entirely possible. Now, they could make it whatever they want. It doesn't have to be the same thing. It's just a functionality assigned to a unique identifier. So that's a little
another
nuance to that answer.
Splinterlands is doing this now. So we have our game and we're built on the Hive blockchain. And not a lot of people know it, but it's a freemium blockchain, which meets our needs to go kind of mainstream. We want it so that you don't have to own crypto first. And if you have gas fees, that's a requirement. But we're on a freemium chain, so now we can onboard users without it. But that puts us into this much smaller ecosystem and capital pool. So we really need to be able to branch out. So we act like an oracle, and we can mint cards as ERC 721s or ERC 1155s. And starting very soon, we're going to have it so that our cards, our packs, and our lands can all be sold through Atomic Hub on Wax. One of the next ones, I'm talking over to the guys at Dapper Labs and Flow. So maybe I think one of our next projects will be allowing all of our cards to be purchased and traded. We can basically treat these other blockchains like NFT exchanges. And so you have your card, it lives in our game, and you could say, oh, I want to take it to Ethereum. Oh, I want to go take it to Wax. Oh, I want to go take it to Flow. And you could sell it on the marketplaces of those different ones. We're already doing this. We have our first integration with Ethereum, our second one with Wax, and I think our likely third one will be the guys at Flow and Dapper Labs.
Nothing more than I love than having people on the shows when they just push alpha leaks all the time. Things are working on. That's awesome. Okay, next question comes from Justin Cooper. Are any of you investing / planning on using NFTs in VR / mixed reality games that you are going to be developing or will be developing? It's kind of a weird question, but basically, long story short, VR, mixed reality, are you guys investing and planning in that segment?
So I will say this. Mirandus was recently announced to be a first-person game. And if you're building something in the first person, it makes sense to consider other ways to interact with a first-person perspective other than a flat screen. That's all I will say about that.
Alpha. Jason's screen's just going to go fuzzy. You're going to take him out.
Well, I'm going to put this one further out. It's not on my immediate dev roadmap, but I would love to have like a Splinterlands Go. You know, like we have all these cards, we have all these assets. You wander around and you like go to the Grand Canyon. At the bottom of it, you can go find a Splinterlands card that you can add and have that sort of geocaching, explore the world and enter and just try to find new people with different interests to come join the Splinterlands universe. So that's not in my roadmap yet, but that's something that I've had in the back of my head of, you know, run around, search, and find this stuff in the real world.
Yeah, definitely. You want to add something, Craig?
No, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty early days
Yeah.
for VR in general, and VR NFTs even earlier. So
Cool. All right, next question. This one comes from Lance. What are some NFT gaming platforms you gents recommend we check out outside of your own?
platforms or games?
Gaming platforms.
Gaming platforms.
So let's talk about games.
Gaming
Throw a couple
platforms.
games and a couple platforms.
Well, I'll plug some portfolio.
Yes.
Neon District is currently in alpha by the Blockade Games team. They're really getting their stride now. They're one of the ones that pioneered a lot of this during the dark era of the 2017, 2018, 19 bear market. So they're coming out of the shadows now with a lot of awesome stuff. So definitely check that out.
Cool. Jason.
I like what the guys over at Cogs are doing, and of course, I'm very impressed by the engagement by the people at Axie and also the Sandbox. Those are all projects that I think are really awesome. I, in fact, recommend checking out the Blockchain Gaming Alliance. There's a lot of different projects there, and we're members, of course, with everybody here, I'm pretty sure.
Cool.
But there's definitely a lot of very interesting projects to check out there.
I think I like what people are mentioning. We stand on the shoulders of giants. We wouldn't be here without Dapper Labs and CryptoKitties. So NBA Top Shot is certainly doing cool stuff over there. You guys mentioned Cogs, but that whole Wax ecosystem is really doing well. I think that there's, Ethereum just as a platform, it's hard to get away from because the capital is just so massive that's there that you can almost put anything out, and there's like enough people with millions of dollars that will just grab it up. But to me, the future of like mainstream stuff is going to go where like gas fees aren't that high. So they're either going to have to figure out like Matic or some of the layer 2 solutions for Ethereum and do that quickly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to price out, all the DeFi degens are going to price out the NFT degens, and that's going to be something that really needs to be a priority.
That'd be interesting to see that roll out. Yeah.
I think this is a little alpha too. Our view is that DeFi doesn't necessarily need a scaling solution. There's no incentive for, if I'm a big whale trading $20 million, I don't want more competition by moving over to Matic or moving over to these layer 2s that bring in less efficiencies that enable more to participate in the market. I want to farm. I want the yield. But with gaming and NFTs, we've always been kind of the ones that are receiving the worst outcome from congestion. Minting is impossible. Trading is impossible. Auctions are a nightmare. Forget actual on-chain gaming by any capacity. So Polyient, we're actually really, really hyper-focused on this. We're releasing a lot of cool smart contracts that are very resource intensive. So we're actively looking at a scaling solution associated with our ecosystem to help really alleviate a lot of the stresses that we're seeing on Ethereum. So there's some alpha for it.
Whoa. Fire. Okay. This is a very good question. One I actually wanted to ask you guys, but I'm glad someone from the audience brought it up, and it's someone anonymous. So what would you tell someone that really wants to get into the NFT space but can't afford a $43 gas fee just for a transaction? And this plays into the bigger picture of how are you guys managing gas fees right now? And how is that affecting player performance, player experience, etc.?
I'll start quick because I will let you guys go. But like the current reward system that we have at Polyient Games, it's truly untenable with the current gas situation. We're trying a number of different ways to roll things up and make it cheaper and more affordable. But this is what I just mentioned. It's very apparent that this gas situation is not going away, and it's also very apparent that Ethereum is here to stay. And what we need to play nice with Ethereum as it relates to some of these more DeFi type NFT systems. And I think that's going to be the next iteration after this hype cycle that we have right now.
What would you recommend for someone that wants to get involved but just doesn't have the money to pay $43 for a freaking transaction?
I think you go to games that allow you to get started without upfront payment. I think I know Jason has been thinking through a lot of this with what they've been doing with Town Stars and things like that, where you are able to get started in the NFT gaming market without having to first buy in. And I think that's the ideal place, and that's that's the road for mainstream user adoption. Like, I'm not going to go immediately start farming with my NFTs if I'm a gamer. I'm going to have to figure. It's a very slow process. Where Polyent's functioning at the most kind of premier person who's, I just farmed a pickle, now I want to go figure out this type of thing. But, there's a huge segment that needs to be addressed. And I these two gentlemen in the room here today, I think are doing a great job at that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say come play Splinterlands because, it's like a $10 buy-in. There's no gas fees. We have cards that sell for pennies. And what we accept. Yep, you can buy our stuff for PayPal.
Really
There's like 20 different tokens that we'll accept in cryptos, and our whole focus is on bringing in brand new people that aren't familiar with crypto at all, making it as simple. You just need a username and a password to sign up, and we get you going. And that to me that's our customer. Is that eventually we'll get all these millionaire and billionaires to come in and grab our stuff too, but we really what we want to do is onboard the masses, and by having gasless transactions and cards that you can purchase for pennies and not pay gas on top of it. There are days where like our market will do as many NFT transactions as all of Ethereum. It's not the same dollar value, but we'll have the same transaction numbers as literally all of Ethereum. So come grab some Splinterlands cards and hit me up in Discord, and I'll hook you up with some of them myself.
Guys, and I'll be sending all these plugs and links in our recap newsletter. And Aggie, I'm going to hold you accountable to that for the link to the Discord. So, guys, you've been awesome. You guys are so smart, so sharp when it comes to this stuff. I really appreciate you guys taking the time, sharing your knowledge, sharing a drink. Cheers to you once more.
Cheers. Thanks, Adam.
And
great stuff.
Really quick, before I let you guys go, I want to hear where we can learn more about you guys on Twitter and your games. So we can start with Aggie, go to Jason, and end with Craig.
So if you go on to splinterlands.com, at the bottom of the screen are all of our socials.
Cool.
So just go to splinterlands.com, scroll to the bottom. Most of our community lives in Discord. We got thousands of people in there, and these are some of the nicest dudes that I could ask for. I love our community. We have a Telegram group that's a little bit smaller, but those are two of the places. And Matt and I basically live in Discord. So if you want to have questions or talk to us or hit us up, just send me a message. I'm aggroed in there, and just say blockchain and booze, and we'll help get you started.
And really quick, Jason, before you go, I want to let everyone know that I see the numbers going down for people leaving because it's the end. But I have a really big announcement to share after we go through Jason and Craig. So stay tuned, stay awake, and grab another drink if you need to. Jason, go ahead.
I'll make it quick. So you can find us on social media anywhere at Go Gala Games. You can also find me on Twitter at Bitbender Brink. And you can find us at gala.games, and that's our Discord, which is probably our most active community by a long shot.
Craig?
Yep. And you can find us Polyient Games at Polyient Games for Twitter. I'm wearing a banana shirt for a purpose. We recently launched a in-house project called Ape in Finance. So it's a very, very cool DeFi meets NFT project we've been working on. So you can find that at Ape in Finance on Twitter. And then my personal is at ECNAR_official. And I'll just post it here in Polyient.games.
Prepared. Guys, thank you. And just so you know, this is session 47 of Blockchain and Boost. Craig, you've been on before a while back. Jason and Aggie, this is your first session. We've really come a long way since the very first Blockchain and Boost, which took place April 7th, 2020, Tuesday at 5 p.m. And 47 sessions later, here we are. And for everyone that's been tuning in and been coming to literally every session, we've grown exponentially. We've gotten media partners, we've gotten collabs and featured in Yahoo Finance, and we've gotten a lot of growth, really cool people, really smart people sharing ideas and sharing a drink, most importantly. And I'm very excited to announce that we have a brand new media partnership coming up that we're announcing next week. It hasn't officially announced, but with Cointelegraph, they're coming on board, and we're going to be streaming this to their hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of audience members and listeners and readers. So really fun. And the whole point is for you guys to basically meet more people in this networking session, to listen to new people, new ideas, more prominent people. And the first session that's going to be live streamed is going to be with the mayor of Miami. He's coming on next week. Mayor Suarez. So
we're all moving there, right?
We're all moving there. I was just there. It was a lot of fun. Everything is open. Everything is alive. It's a different way of life. So I just want to say I love you guys, Blockchain and Booze. You guys are awesome. You really make it possible to be here. And thank you for your attention. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for sticking around to the networking. You guys are literally the reason why I do this every Tuesday evening, and why I risk my health. Thank you so much with you guys. So cheers one more
Great
time.
Stuff, Adam.
And this session was for you guys. And stay tuned for the official announcement. Cheers. And for everyone who's new to Blockchain and Booze, basically this part is my favorite element. It's a networking session. And Craig, Jason, Aggie, I encourage you guys to join, because a lot of these people who join in live want to meet you guys and pick your brains even more. Basically, I'm going to end presentation mode, and we're going to break into all these colorful gamified tables, perfect for the session. And people are going to be able to bounce from chair to chair and meet the speaker, everybody that was watching live. So if you're watching the live stream on LA Blockchain Summit's YouTube channel, come into Remo. I posted and pinned the link at the top. And let's do it, guys. Make sure to have your cameras on, your microphones on. I'll be bouncing from table to table. And cheers one last time. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Thanks for having us. Good times.